Oh, seven citizens, my name is Black and welcome to my channel CasaBLACK Gaming, a home where new players and old can find helpful guides, honest ship reviews, vehicle loadouts, and deep dives into the roadmap. Now many players, especially new players, come into the game asking for the most profitable way to make money or how to do something specific like bounty hunting or cargo running, mining, or salvaging. But what about just plain old exploring? Now, is that even a thing in Star Citizen? And if so, is it profitable? And also, how can someone go about becoming an explorer? Well, this video is here to help the interested take on that chill playstyle and learn what you need to get started. So let's go ahead and get into this guide. So with many gameplay loops in Star Citizen, this question can have a very defined role. So for instance, if you're mining, you're going to go for a prospector or a mole. If you're a salvager, the vulture or reclaimer. Now for ship bounties, a good fighter will work, etc. But for exploring, you have so many options to where pretty much any ship will do. But let me help you focus this a bit with a few optional recommendations. Now, if you're more in the starter range of ships, my favorite is the Drake Cutter. Not only does it have a bed, which is useful for staying out and exploring without the need to go back and dock, but it has a nice little cargo area and is great on fuel, and also has a nice footprint for doing things like flying into caves. Once scanning is brought into the game, I would expect the Cutter Scout to be the preferred version of this ship. Now, if you're looking for something that's a little bit larger that is also capable of maybe carrying a land vehicle, might I suggest the entry level to this range, the Nomad. Now with its pickup truck style bed in the back, it's a great little ship that still offers up a bed inside, and with that versatile cargo bed in the back, you are able to easily take land vehicles with you, such as an STV or even a rock, so you can choose to do some land mining if you run upon a nice cluster of Hadanite. Now the more expensive ships in this range, such as the CasaBLACK, Crusader C1, and Freelancer series, are also great ships to consider to open up more exploring options. Now for a breakdown of these three ships in particular, I will link that video at the end of this one. Now along with these vehicles being able to also haul ground vehicles, which they do in an enclosed cargo hold versus the Nomad's external one, they also can open up more room to take on other opportunities that you might come across while exploring, such as downed ships, which you can salvage for parts or their cargo. These ships also offer up a bit more firepower than the smaller ships on this list in case you come across hostile NPCs or other players who are not into your relaxing exploratory nature, and these ships can also offer up the option to bring along a friend to help in your chill exploring ways. Now, as I mentioned, you can explore in any ship really, and while you can go with bigger ships like the Constellation series, the MSR, or the Corsair, on up to the 400i or 600i or various other ships, I find sticking to ships that are medium or smaller just gives me that more mobile feel that I consider to be the pinnacle of exploring, especially solo. And I like being able to get in and out of an area fast without spending a lot of time looking for special room to park. Now before I move away from ships, I do want to offer up one other ship that can be a great exploration ship, even though it is not quite considered for this purpose, and that is the Drake Vulture. Now this ship is a great exploring ship because it offers a nice cargo hold, which can be used to not only hold salvage that you find, but also you can fit the hover vehicles and the Greycat STV inside of it, giving you some further exploring options on the ground. Now this ship does fly a little slower than the recommendations on this list, but having the ability to salvage ships you run across more than makes up for that slowness. So the very next question is, what is out there to explore? Now there is quite a bit, and for many players who have strictly gone after a narrow band of gameplay loops, you might be surprised at some of the locales that are out there to be explored. For instance, if you've only ever run bunker missions, well, you might be surprised to learn that there are some truly unique places to explore, and even Easter eggs such as Benny Hinge and numerous Pico balls that are hidden throughout Stanton. Don't get me wrong, I do wish there were more cool little Easter eggs to find in the verse, but regardless, there are still a lot of caves, wreck sites, and NPC controlled outposts, both friendly and not so friendly to find, whether you're trying to come across these or just randomly come upon them in your travels. Which, by the way, when sand caves were added in 2023, we didn't just get a few caves, but over 100 sand caves of various sizes. And a little tip for finding these caves is to check out the website Cornerstone Planetary Survey, which I will link down below. Now this is a great tool with exact instructions on how to fly to these locations and spot the caves from the air. For now, these are just sand caves, but other biome-specific caves have been teased and already worked on, so it's just a matter of time before we see these pop up in the verse. These caves, while similar in structure, can be quite large, and despite only offering up a little bit of hand minables right now, you do have a chance to find the more profitable Janolite inside of them. Now all of these caves in Star Citizen could really use some more gameplay, and if you stick around to the future of exploring, which I will talk about soon, you will see that there is a cool new feature coming to these caves pretty soon. Other than caves though, you can expect some limitless exploration options simply because of Star Citizen's sandbox nature. Now on any given day, no matter what you do in the verse, whether that be mining, bounties, or even bunkers, your gameplay can suddenly take a left turn, whether that be due to your ship being yanked out of quantum travel, or by someone requesting help, and in the case of an explorer, running up on a cool find from either another player or perhaps some wreckage from a bounty that happened overhead. That's the beauty of the persistent feature in Star Citizen that came online in 3.18. Things left behind by other players or NPCs can suddenly take over your time and change your intended gameplay, and usually for the better. If all you ever do is go from point A to point B and complete missions, you're less likely to find the random oddities, and just think about how those random events are about to become even more likely with a new feature coming this year, but we'll touch on that in a moment in our Future of Exploring chapter. Now so far I've given you some ideas on which ships make great exploration vehicles, and I also discussed some of the varied locations and things you could find while being an explorer, but how does a typical play session go as an explorer? First up, let me say that as an explorer, I think a certain mindset is a must. If you're needing credits and that's your sole focus, then exploring is probably not for you, at least not right now. Being an explorer is about setting limited expectations and just going with the flow. Now you could come across a huge credit score, such as a wrecked reclaimer with hundreds of containers to loot, or you might come across a Janolite node while you're in caves, but those huge credit making instances are usually rare. So if money making is your thing, I suggest you go do any of the other good credit making gameplay loops out there and save exploration for when you're wanting to do something a little different and at a slower pace. Anyway, a typical exploration gameplay session for me will of course depend on what exactly I want to do. Now, I like to have a couple of options when I go out. So for instance, maybe I want to explore caves for hand minimals, but I also gear up for possible derelict outpost delivery missions so I can also look through loot boxes after finishing killing up those NPCs. Or maybe I want to go around looking for some rock mining spots and also hit up some other heavier traffic bounty spots looking for wreck sites to salvage. Perhaps you go out doing some cave missions such as investigations, but you're also willing to do some medical beacons on the side. Being geared and taking the needed vehicles with you makes for some good exploring. Maybe you want to be a minimalist and go around to the new colonial outpost and search for loot boxes, all while also grabbing the occasional cargo run. The explorer lifestyle is all about just flying around and seeing what's out there and what trouble you can find. It's a great way to spend as much or as little time in the game as you like, and with a bed on board, you can leave the game at will. So another cool feature about exploration is just finding those really cool open vistas that make for great and unique screenshots. There are some places in Stanton that never see darkness. There are places in Stanton that offer up unique landscaping that has probably not really been seen by many players, and so when you post those glorious shots online, you will no doubt have people asking where you were and how to get there. Now speaking of unique locations, one final thing you can be doing while exploring is scouting for possible base locations. Now again, this is a future feature and we still have no confirmation on how land distribution will be carried out or when it will be in the game. But maybe you find a nice little area that you happen to go back to over and over again, and it could possibly come up as a place that you can build your future home on. And so having that early knowledge could help you secure your favorite site. So lastly, I want to talk about the future of exploration in Star Citizen. Now the first thing I want to hit on here is that with each new system that makes its way into the verse, that alone will offer up and expand so much exploration gameplay. With Pyro coming later this year, there will be chances to find new Easter eggs, caves, and who knows what else, and also to be the first to do so in new systems will net you bragging rights. Now, as scanning gameplay fills out, so too will exploration, and exploration could soon become a very lucrative moneymaker for those who go out and find valuable locations for mining, salvaging, and other crafting coming into the verse, and then being able to sell those locations to other players. Scanning will be the single biggest game enhancing feature for exploration, whether that be in the examples I just gave, or even on foot while in caves. Now, speaking of caves, I mentioned earlier that a new feature is coming soon, and in 3.23, we are going to see our first creatures, and they are rumored to have special resources to gather, so this once again will open up more exploration. Crafting is going to be a really huge boon for exploration as well, because even if you don't craft yourself, the materials that come with crafting are going to be found by those who go out and search and collect, which should be a very profitable venture considering most MMOs that have crafting usually have gathering as a very proficient way to make as much, if not more, than the actual crafting of items. Getting good at exploring now will make you more successful in the future. Now, another huge feature coming to Star Citizen this year is server meshing, which should speak for itself in how it will enhance exploration, but let me share a couple of ways anyway. Server meshing will eventually allow more than just transportation between systems, but the overall coming together of all players in a single version of the game, which means so many more opportunities to find things around the verse left by other players. Right now, someone might lose their ship on Walla, but someone else may never see it because they are on a different server. But all of that changes when we all share the same servers. Now, those items will be there for anyone to find, and not just for someone on that particular server. Server meshing will also allow for more players to interact with, which means you will not get that alone feeling you can have now with 100-player servers. With more player interactions will come more exploration opportunities as Sandbox content comes into its own. Alright, so that's it for this little guide on exploration in the verse. I know for longtime players this might not be anything new, but for players who have truly not ventured out into Stanton, it's a great time to get into exploration, and then you can go straight into Pyro knowing that Stanton has been checked off your list. Now, for those out there who are master explorers, drop a comment down below on some interesting places to go check out, or some of your favorite spots to shoot interesting screenshots. Help give our future explorers some iconic places to check out, and I'll probably do a list of some of these best places in a future video. Anyway, I hope I have at the very least amped up your excitement for exploration and given you some food for thought. Now, as always, I appreciate every single view, and so please do all of the things that help a channel grow, as it's much appreciated. Anyway, I've been Black, and thank you for watching, and remember to stay positive out there, citizens.